When God feels silent, what to do while you wait. There are moments in life when heaven feels quiet. You pray and nothing changes. You cry and nothing moves. You wait and the silence stretches longer than you ever imagined it would. If you're reading this today, maybe you're in that place. Maybe you've been asking God for healing, for a breakthrough in your finances, for restoration in your marriage, for direction about your future, for freedom from anxiety that won't let you sleep at night. And instead of answers, you feel silence. Let me say something gently but clearly. God's silence does not mean God's absence. Some of the most powerful seasons of spiritual growth happen when heaven feels quiet. Many believers are walking through silent seasons. We live in a culture of instant results, 2-day shipping, on-demand streaming, quick promotions, fast solutions. But God does not operate on Amazon Prime timing. He works on eternal timing. And while that waiting can feel unbearable, it can also become sacred. First, understand this. Silence is not rejection. When God feels silent, our first instinct is often to assume something is wrong. We think, did I do something wrong? Is God disappointed in me? Did I miss my chance? Has he moved on from me? But Scripture shows us something different. Think about David. He was anointed king as a teenager, yet he waited years before wearing the crown. He spent time hiding in caves, running from danger, questioning his circumstances. Imagine how silent heaven must have felt during those cave seasons. Yet the silence was not rejection. It was preparation. The same was true for Joseph. He had a dream from God. Then he was betrayed, enslaved, falsely accused, and imprisoned. Years passed between promise and fulfillment. God was not silent because he forgot Joseph. He was silent because he was positioning him. If you are in a silent season, don't automatically interpret it as punishment. Sometimes silence is simply the sound of God working behind the scenes. You cannot hear roots growing out of soil, but that doesn't mean growth isn't happening. Waiting is dangerous territory, not because of what God is doing, but because of what we might allow into our hearts. In seasons of delay, bitterness whispers. God shows up for other people. Your prayers don't matter. Maybe you're forgotten. Comparison is especially strong in American culture. Social media magnifies it. You see engagement announcements, job promotions, healed testimonies, miracle stories. And you wonder, why not me? This is where waiting becomes spiritual warfare. Guard your heart fiercely. Protect it from cynicism. Protect it from resentment. Protect it from the temptation to quit. Because the enemy would love to use the silence to separate you from trust. Instead of letting bitterness take root, practice gratitude even in small ways. Thank God for breath, for today, for the roof over your head, for strength to get through another day. Gratitude does not deny your pain. It anchors you in truth while you walk through it. One of the hardest things to do during spiritual silence is to keep praying. It feels awkward, empty, mechanical. But here is something powerful. Prayer is not only about getting answers, it is about staying connected. Even when you don't feel anything, continue to show up. There is something transformative about saying, God, I don't feel you right now, but I'm still here. In churches today, we often emphasize emotional experiences. And while emotions are beautiful gifts, they are not the foundation of faith. Faith is choosing to trust even when you cannot sense. Sometimes the most mature prayer you can pray is this: Lord, I don't understand what you're doing, but I choose to trust you. That prayer shakes heaven more than you realize. It is easy to worship when prayers are answered. It is harder to worship when nothing changes. But worship in silence is powerful. Look at Paul the Apostle and Silas. They were imprisoned unjustly, beaten, chained, forgotten by the system. And what did they do? They worshiped, not after the breakthrough, before it. Worship shifts your focus from your circumstances to God's character. When you declare, God, you are faithful, even when you don't see faithfulness, you strengthen your own soul. In a nation where uncertainty often dominates headlines, economic fears, political tension, cultural division, worship becomes a stabilizing force. It reminds you that God's throne is not shaken by market crashes or election cycles. Silent seasons are mirrors. They reveal what you truly believe about God, whether you trust His character or just His blessings, whether your faith depends on results. This is uncomfortable, but it is holy work. Ask yourself, if God never answered this specific prayer the way I want, would I still follow Him? That question is not meant to scare you. It is meant to purify your devotion. Sometimes God allows silence because He is deepening your roots. A shallow faith collapses in storms. A rooted faith survives them. If you ever doubt whether God cares in the silence, look at the cross. There was a moment when even Jesus cried out, "Why have you forsaken me?" The sky went dark. Heaven seemed quiet. Yet that silence produced salvation. The greatest miracle in history happened through what looked like abandonment. When God feels silent in your life, remember this: He has already proven His love. He does not need to perform on command to validate His faithfulness. The cross settled that forever. Throughout Scripture, silence often comes before movement. There was silence before the walls of Jericho fell. Silence before resurrection morning. Silence before promises unfolded. Waiting stretches your faith so that when breakthrough comes, you have the capacity to carry it. Imagine receiving the very thing you are praying for, but without the character to sustain it. Sometimes the waiting is not about timing. It is about transformation. God is more concerned with who you are becoming than what you are receiving. We often respond to discomfort by moving. New church, new relationship, new job, new city, and sometimes change is necessary. But be careful not to uproot yourself simply because growth feels slow. A tree that is constantly replanted never grows deep. If God has placed you somewhere, stay planted unless He clearly leads you otherwise. Growth underground is invisible but essential. Isolation magnifies doubt. During waiting seasons, the temptation is to withdraw, to skip church, to avoid small groups, to stop sharing struggles. But silence is not meant to be endured alone. Surround yourself with believers who remind you of truth when your emotions waver. Sometimes God speaks through people when He feels quiet personally. Community is not weakness, it is design. Waiting can become mentally exhausting. Anxiety creeps in. Worst case scenarios play on repeat. You begin predicting negative outcomes before they happen. Combat that with truth. When your mind says, "Nothing is happening," respond, "God is always working." When it says, "You are forgotten," respond, "I am seen." When it says, "This will never change," respond, "God specializes in impossible situations." You must actively renew your thoughts. Here is a perspective shift. Sometimes God feels silent because we are expecting Him to speak in a certain way. We want audible voices, clear signs, dramatic confirmations, but He may be speaking through Scripture, through wise counsel, through peace or restraint, through closed doors. Silence is often misinterpreted subtlety. Slow down, create space, turn off noise, seek Him intentionally. You might realize He has been speaking all along. Maybe you are exhausted, tired of praying the same prayer, tired of holding on to hope, tired of pretending you're strong. Let this be a gentle reminder. You're not weak for feeling weary. You are human. God is not disappointed in your fatigue. He is near to the tired heart. Even if your prayer today is just a whisper, "Help me," that is enough. Every season changes. Winter gives way to spring. Night gives way to morning. This waiting season is not permanent. You may not know the day it shifts, but it will shift. And one day, you will look back and realize God was shaping you in ways you could never see at the time. He was strengthening patience, deepening trust, refining faith, maturing love. The silence was not empty. It was purposeful. If God feels silent right now, don't quit. Don't walk away. Don't numb your heart. Don't surrender your faith because the answer is delayed. Silence is not the end of your story. It might be the middle chapter, the one that builds resilience before resolution. Keep praying, keep trusting, keep showing up, keep believing, because even when heaven feels quiet, God is still writing. If this devotion spoke to you today, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who may be walking through a silent season. Encourage them. And right now, take a moment wherever you are and whisper a simple prayer. God, even in the silence, I trust you. Write that down. Say it out loud. Declare it over your life. And if you're committed to trusting God in this waiting season, make a personal decision today. Do not let silence steal your faith. Stay faithful. Stay planted. Stay hopeful. Your breakthrough may be closer than you think. And when it comes, you'll realize God was never silent. He was working all along.